Hello, this is Mr. Brown. This podcast is for the cabling class, CNT140, and we're now going to look at terminating our patch panel. So if we think back real quick, we pulled the horizontal cabling run. We terminated our outlet jack on the end of our cable run. We did that the last time. Now we're going to take the other end of this cable run, the outlet jack's out where the user computer is. We're going to take the other end of the cable run, and we're going to terminate that into our patch panel. And remember the function of the patch panel, termination point for connectivity, but it's also for organizing. I can take this cable run, patch it into a data switch, or I can turn around, patch it into a switch that connects to IP phone server. I can move it around, I can connect, I can disconnect, but I don't have to affect my permanently installed solid copper wiring. Alright, before we do any terminations, there's my tools I'll be using. I'll be getting back to those in a minute. Let's talk just for a few seconds about our patch panels. If you remember from our reading and our discussion, they do come in various forms. Here's a 24-port patch panel. Here's a 48-port patch panel. They do make 96s. They also make patch panels that have angled ports on the front. These are angled. That reduces the stress on the patch cable it plugs in. Actually gives you a nice little label point there. So they come in various port counts, 24, 48, 96. They also come in some nice little features to make them easier. That's one of the things you'll look at for patch panel. Another thing you do need to worry about is make sure the category of patch cable matches your cabling. So make sure the category is matching up. Another thing you'll need to realize is when you start working with them, the color codes on the back on different manufacturers are marked differently. Some are not marked so well, some are marked better. Some are marked in a way where, let me flip this one over. When I first look at it, I'll see it's marked for the B color code. If I carefully pull up the little card that comes with it and flip it over, on the other side, I'll see that it's marked for the A color code. So they come marked in various ways too, depending on how you're using them. So port count, make sure your category matches, then also take a minute and recognize how it's marked. This is marked B color code. If I flip the little card over, A is on the other side. Alright. Last thing is to start recognizing how the ports line up. As I look at, port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the front, on the back, how do they match up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so forth. Each manufacturer is a little different. So you always want to take a second and orient yourself to how is this patch panel laid out? Is it the correct port count? Is it the correct category? All that kind of good stuff. Once you do that, then we can actually prepare our cable run to terminate into the patch panel. Alright, I'm going to terminate run 27 down here. These are patch cables we use out of the lab, so some of these have been used a bit already, so I'm trying to find one that does not look like it's used too much. So we're going to try port 27 down here and hope that it's still a good functioning port for us. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cable run, I'm going to prepare that. So to do that, I'm going to strip a little insulation off the end, just like I do anytime I'm terminating. Give it maybe 1.5 inches. I don't need a whole lot here. Okay, so I'll strip off maybe about 1.5 inches insulation. Once I do that, there's my wire pairs. I'll take a second and orient myself to, okay, blue, orange, green, brown. So I want blues on the left, orange, green in the middle, brown on the right. So I will try to rotate my cable a little bit. Blue on the left, brown on the right, orange, green in the middle. Okay, and you can do this a couple different ways. I've seen people where they untwist the wires down to termination. That works. I've also seen people where they carefully split the wire and put it over the color bar. Okay, so you'll have to find the one that works for you. What we want to know is we see white, blue, blue, white, orange, orange, white, green, green, white, brown, brown. All right, so where the color bar is, I'll see the white wire on the left, the color on the right. That comes from the old phone days of tip and ring. So I'm going to start to split my wires so the white is on the left, blue is on the right, white, blue on the left, blue on the right, and work my way down my patch panel, getting the colors into the proper spot. Okay, so there's my blue wire. Some people will then now come over to the right and do that one, and then the other two in the middle. That's really kind of up to you what starts working for you. Okay, I'm now going to work on my white-orange wire here. Split that over the little color bar that's there. There we go. There's the white, orange, orange. Now I'll do the green. Okay, I'm going to split the wire over that little color bar. I'm just kind of pushing them in a little bit with my fingers to try to get the connector to hold. Then last one out here on the right, I'll take and do my white brown, and I'll split that guy over the color bar again. Alright, oops, get in there. Friction on this is wearing out a little bit. There we go. Now, always a good idea at this point to double check, make sure colors do indeed look right. Get in there, white, brown. There you go. Okay, white, blue, blue, white, orange, orange, white, green, green, white, brown, brown. Good. Looking good. And my cable is very well centered over my punch down here. Now, next thing I need to do is I'm going to grab my punch down tool, and I'm going to use that to push the wire into the 110 block. And the way the punch down is designed, there's also a chisel side to it to cut the excess off. So let's take 2 seconds and orient ourselves to the punch down. This style punch down tool actually has a spring mechanism in it. So as I push on this, there's a spring mechanism up here that actually punches the wire. So if I push this out here, okay, this is a better style punch down because the spring mechanism here is hitting every time with the same even pressure, same even force. Unlike if I had to control it, each time I push on the wire, it might be a different force. That is usually controlled by a setting here. In this case, this actually has a low and high setting on here for impact. A lot of times you'll start with low. If that's not hard enough, you use high. But you do need to be careful on some patch panels that says use low impact setting. The high actually is too hard and damages the metal V that's down in this patch panel, per se. I'll also notice on the front of this one, the tip out here, this actually is designed to slide out, and I can turn it around because I have a 110. There we go. There's the 110 punch down on this side, and if I flip the tip over, I have a 66 punch down on this side. So this can do phone wire as well as my data wire here. I will also notice that the tip is marked with cut side, and there's a little scissor here to remind you that this side of the cutting tool has a little chisel on to cut the excess wire off. So as I'm punching, I need to make sure the chisel is on the waste side of the wire, the excess side of the wire, the side of the wire I want cut off. If I'm not careful and I put that on the wrong side, the chisel cuts the wire off before it gets to the termination point, and you won't have connectivity. So there's my punch down tool. Some of these also have little tools on here for helping to get wires out or split wires apart or things like that. So there's usually some tools in here to help. And sometimes there's even a little storage unit in the back to store extra tips in. Alrighty, I'm going to take my punch down tool, I'm going to line it up over my wires, and I'm going to carefully give it a push, and you'll hear it punch the wire in. There's the white blue wire, there's the blue wire, white orange wire in there. Get in there, orange, there we go. There's my orange wire. There's my green wire, or white green, green, white brown, brown. There we go. Now my wires are punched in. I'm going to get my excess out of here. And now I should be ready to get my meter out and test my cable. Alright, I'm going to grab my cable tester over here in just a second, and I will hook up my cable tester to my wires and test them. Alright, now that we're punched in, I'm going to set my punch down tool out of the way. I'm going to get both of my cable meters. The one that's in your toolkit, this style, again, it comes in 2 pieces, one to plug into the patch panel, one to plug in your outlet jack. So we'll start with that guy to test our cable run. And what I'll do, let me get my outlet jack here. Okay. I'm just going to plug one end of my meter into the outlet jack. It really doesn't matter which one. Plug one end to my outlet jack. Okay, and that might be my partner down in in a classroom or something. I'm then going to take the other end of my cable meter, and I believe I was doing port 27, so I'm going to plug my cable meter into port 27 here on the other end of the cable run. There we go. There's my meter into 27. And in real life, I wouldn't see the other end of the meter. It'd be out in the classroom somewhere, but there's the other end of my meter too. So I'll turn this on. I'll hit the on or test button again, and I should see 4 orange lights up here. The shielding's blinking, that's all right, and I should see a pass. If I were to check each individual, pass, 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 pass. That means I have a properly wired, terminated, straight through cable run, which is what I want. That's my first test I would do. Looks good. For lab's sake, I do need to see that, so show me this or the other meter, it doesn't matter to me, to know that your cable run is working. So there's your first test. The other test we need to do is we're going to use, let me slide my patch panel back a little bit. There we go. We're also going to use this meter, like we did for our patch cables. We're going to use this meter to test our cable run. So what we're going to do, I'll leave this here kind of front and center so you can see it. I'll take my outlet jack, and I need the little remote tool that comes with the meter. I'm going to plug this into my outlet jack, out my classroom again. I'm going to leave that in there. It's not an antenna. All that is a tool that when the signal comes out to the outlet jack, this wraps it back and sends it back through the wire back to the meter. The other end, this meter end here, I'm going to take and plug into the LAN port. You'll see it wire labeled up there. Plug in the LAN port. This is picking up the patch cable right now, so it's not my cable run. I'm then going to plug the other end of this into my patch panel. So I'm going to slide this up here real quick. So I'll plug this into my patch panel. And now my meter is going to the patch panel, across my cable run, and it's going out to my room where the little remote tool is, looping the signal back to here. And what I see now is I see a straight through cable run, but more importantly, I also see up at the top up here, this is a 21-foot cable run. Well, in real life, you might have 50, 60, 70 feet, but this is telling me the length of my cable run, which is important, and also that it's straight through and everything's wired correctly. So if I were doing this for real, I would probably jot that number down on a chart saying, hey, cable run 32 or cable run 27 is 21 foot long. And if I had to do troubleshooting on a later date, that handy could help me. That number could help me troubleshoot my cable run or the problem I have. If it comes up 15 on another day, I know I got to cut somewhere, handful of feet down the line. So there is my patch panel termination and testing that for functioning, for full function, I should say.